If you thought the bank statements or the check-in of your bank statements when you provide them to certain organisations like DWP is really only going to affect the people claiming benefits like universal credit and unemployment benefit, then you'd be wrong. And in this video, we're going to look at how language and evidence has allowed one person get away with quite a lot when it comes to the truth, the financial truth about their bank statements, whilst another person got sent to prison for 7 months, a disabled claimant. Now, I've got a lovely comment here from Chris Groggy Creaser that says, what about the pounds corrupt millionaires and MPs spend? I don't know. I'm not suggesting at all that any MPs are corrupt. I would never ever do that. However, let's look at some factual data from history and see what it tells us. And then I'm going to give you a couple top tips on how you can evidence your health conditions and your disability in the best way possible so that little assumptions can't then turn into massive accusations and you be sent to prison as well. And like everything, this is not legal advice. This is just my 2 pennies worth as a litigant in person that was successful in suing the Department of Work and Pensions for unlawful harassment and failure to make reasonable adjustments in the workplace for disabled people, failing to follow their own policies for disabled people. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, we all know this face, don't we? Angela Rayner. Some of you say she has defrauded the state. If you've been living under a rock and you do not know who Angela Rayner is, Angela Rayner was the Deputy Prime Minister for the good old United Kingdom. She was also Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. Housing being a very important part here. She was also Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. So, as she was the Secretary of State for Housing, just like the Department of Work and Pensions, you would expect her to know the policies and the rules and even the law and stamp duty and ministerial codes of conduct. I mean, how could you allege to lead in a department if you don't even know the rules yourself? Angela Rayner was not just a everyday member of the public, was she now? She was, at the time of a rather unfortunate incident, one of the most senior people in government on our screens every single day. But then in 2025, Angela Rayner bought a little flat for £800,000. And at the time, as I said, she was Deputy Prime Minister to the UK and Housing Secretary. But when she bought the flat, she declared the flat in Hove in a way that permitted her to pay thousands of pounds less in stamp duty. So it all came down to her own declaration. Stick with me on this because it's going to be an important one. Because of her declaration, she only paid about £30,000 in stamp duty when it should have been around the £70,000 to £80,000 mark. So 50% less, and we're talking thousands. So a considerable amount of money. Now, it was only when national press picked up on the fact that she had bought a property and they found out that she'd paid stamp duty, did she then seek some sort of advice to see what she could do to try and make sure she paid the right amount. I'm reading between the lines. I'm pretty sure that's what the national headline said. But she was not exposed to a national criminal fraud investigation. The issue really only arose after national media scrutiny. I mean, if the press hadn't have been doing their job, then, wow, we wouldn't have known and she would have got off. But the language that was used to describe this incident, which could have cost the state £40,000, was inadvertent, no bad faith, integrity. So somebody that should have known better because of the paid position that they were employed to function in for the government, that's how it was described. Now let's look at a PIP claimant. So a PIP claimant is, of course, not trained in policies. or even the law. Meet Helen Green. Helen Green allegedly failed to inform the Department of Work and Pensions of a change of circumstances regarding her health. This came from a tip-off, and I'm wondering if this tip-off came from her bank, because her leisure club subscription membership fee was paid from her bank account, the same bank account that she received PIP into. Now, the language that was used to describe Helen Green, simple little PIP claimant, not a trained policy leader like Angela, the language that was used to describe this disabled claimant's actions were fraudulent, deceptive, and of course, criminal investigation and prison. And actually, Helen Green received considerably less in a PIP payment, £25,000 to be correct, which was a lot less than the amount of money that Angela Rayner initially got away without paying, I should say, before she made the declaration after the national press had picked this up. So let's look at the case of Helen Green and let's go through some of the steps as to what she could have done to have evidenced her disability in a much better way in regards to her condition and what was declared. And as I said, this is not legal advice, this is not medical advice, this is my commentary from somebody that has already battled with the beast and is, as we all know, a very firm and proud voice in disability advocacy, because my word, don't we just need it in this country. Now, on Helen Green's PIP form, apparently, she declared herself as somebody struggling to walk, was housebound and needed crutches. I believe she had some form of osteoarthritis or arthritis, probably some other conditions as well. She stated she had a fluctuating condition. Now, from this tip off, which then led to an awful lot of covert surveillance, as we can see here, whilst Helen is exercising in her local leisure centre and apparently taking part in a 10-mile run. Now, clearly, if we just look at these pictures and we then look at her declaration, it looks rather jarring, doesn't it? It looks like there's something definitely wrong. But I wonder if this is really the case. And to be clear here, this is not about helping anybody defraud anything, because you should never ever do that. But there are a lot of fluctuating conditions that to an outsider may look like the person who is struggling with that condition isn't in any pain at all, or may be very capable. Now, I don't actually know when this picture was taken. For me, that could have been 5 years before, that could have been 3 years before, I don't know. But I also know that lots of people I know that have quite serious health conditions could try doing some exercises like this. And if you talk to occupational health therapists or anybody in the medical capacity, they would encourage you, with whatever conditions you have, to try and do some form of physical activity so that you increase bone density if you suffer with something like osteoarthritis, or increase muscle mass, and also just to generally feel better about yourself and your health, because when you exercise, obviously it releases all sorts of natural chemicals which are very good for your body. However, unlike Angela Rayner, this person has been held out to public scrutiny, imprisoned, and has been splashed all over the national news, made out to be a criminal because apparently she did not notify DWP of a change of circumstances. And this is where most people get caught out when it comes to evidencing disability. It's not necessarily all about the declaration or the change of circumstances, particularly if you have a condition that fluctuates. And if you look at most conditions will vary and they will fluctuate. And that day-to-day fluctuation is the number one thing that needs to be recorded, because your doctor is not going to do it for you. The health journal will, and this is my health journal that I wrote. It is an annual journal, and it will help you start to evidence all of these fluctuations, and I'm going to go into it now. One or two of the most important pages here that could really have helped this person would be the weekly planner and the fluctuation tracker. So in the weekly planner, what she could have registered in her health journal is what happened before the activity. What happened afterwards? How was she feeling? Did she have muscle spasms? Could she do things without pain? Was the pain increased before, during, or after an activity? Did she then have a complete physical body crash or fatigue crash after the activity? Could she repeat the activity within a couple of days or the next week? Could she not? If she could not, what specifically could she not do? Was she able to complete the activity safely, or did she try and then stop because her legs were trembling or her feet were trembling or another part of the body? Was the activity an exception to try and get herself back into a physical activity to improve her overall health? Was it part of a treatment or a therapy that she had been prescribed by her occupational therapist? Now, if you have my health journal and you have the fluctuation tracker, as you will do, alongside the weekly planner, and that's why I've done it like that, you can start to see the correlation and the pattern. There is nothing wrong with a disabled person or someone with health conditions or chronic illnesses who is in receipt of a benefit, who is in receipt of PIP or something like that, undertaking physical activity if they believe that is right for them, or if that's what has been advised by medical professionals. I want to make that really clear, because I think coverage like this does really the worst thing for people with disabilities. It makes people think that they can't be seen outside, that they shouldn't be doing something to advocate for their own health. But because people do this type of thing and they then don't evidence it, they're fearful of being held to scrutiny because they have no evidence system. For the sake of 20 quid, get it and have your own evidence system, because all of it could have been used. Her lawyer could have taken screenshots or photocopies and subjected it. They could have printed the whole lot. They could have given it to the judge. She could have had her own little notes in here. I tried doing some floor exercises today, was only able to complete 10 minutes, really struggled, had muscle pain for a whole week afterwards, but at least I tried. Something like that she could have written. The flare-up types for fluctuating conditions, really important. And I've done it really, really simply here. So you don't have to write loads. You just have to tick in here. And down the side, I'm going to tell you what there is. The flare-up types. What was the flare-up? It's going to be different for every single person. Did you require extra help doing everyday activities or mobility activities because of your flare-up? If you did, what were they? What days did they occur on? For example, this lady, she might have done this and then been in bed for 2 weeks following it. If you can't evidence it, all she's going to have is like this type of evidence that had been collected against her. And some people will hold their hands up and like go with guilty because they haven't got any evidence. Their legal team will be advising them, if you have no evidence, your best thing to do is to plead guilty, because the courts will go lighter on you. It also has things like trigger descriptions. So what was the trigger? How long did it last? Was it Monday? Was it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Was it all of the week? What was it? I can guarantee you this person did not have a health journal, or particularly my health journal. I can guarantee you she was not documenting everything every single week. I can guarantee you she had no flare-up record, no bad day log, no medication tracker, no professional quotes, no appointment notes, no record of how long each activity would take to recover from after a flare-up. So in a nutshell, I bet she had no evidence whatsoever showing that her condition is not one neat, tidy little snapshot of a picture. Evidence can be very subjective. This is why I am OCD about evidence, like literally, because there are too many in the world of disability, not just in this country, but all countries over the world. There are too many people that think because they see a certain person doing a certain activity that they don't have a disability at all, that they don't struggle. And then they literally turn into MI5. And this person has now been criminalised because of it, literally sent to prison now with a criminal record for her life. Whereas Angela Rayner failed to make the right declaration, even though she should have known better, in my opinion, and even though she did breach the ministerial conduct or the ministerial code of conduct, because she resigned and she did pay the money back allegedly to HMRC, the words that described her was that she acted with integrity. All I'm going to say here is she wasn't acting with integrity before national press picked up on her flat or her flat purchase. And this is why I created the Health Journal. Really, 100% why. It's not to hide anything. In actual fact, it's completely the opposite. It helps you document your good days, your bad days, your flare-ups, your mobility, your mental health issues, your spending patterns, your pain, your medicine. And it helps you bring it all together in one tidy document. And if you're a member of Insiders, which is the Justice Journal's quarterly membership, where you get access to Justice Writer Pro, all of my letters, all of my toolkits, you get private lives with me. You're also going to be getting the new release of the electronic Health Journal, which plots a certain pattern, which is going to be very, very helpful for you guys when it comes to evidencing your disability. Be that an employment tribunal, an employment issue, a PIP application, a reassessment, a reasonable adjustment request at work, any type of tribunal at all. Because data doesn't lie, evidence can be subjective. So make sure you always have your evidence in your hands. Don't leave it to somebody else. And I will say this, one good day should not erase months or years of bad ones. But with no evidence, they will do, because it's going to be your word against theirs. The Helen Green case should be used as a warning to all, not to not exercise, but to start being really serious about evidencing your health condition, evidencing the impact of it, and evidencing your disability. But the Health Journal is always available on thejusticejournals.com alongside Insiders, my toolkits, and everything else.